Are we live? We are live, and it looks like my video is not what it needs to be. So let's give it a moment or so as we make the attempt to get right in here. We are, as I've heard some other YouTubers say, we are struggle streaming up in here today. But what's on the screen and the topic do go hand in hand. So I'm gonna actually leave that up on the screen because what I'm about to say and what I'm talking about, everything that you're seeing on the screen is relevant. First and foremost, let's go and get this out the way. You are now tuned into your host, the hottest voice in cryptocurrency, the Southern Urban Voice, Mr. Too Rich. I am here to provide you with a some simple tips on what you should be thinking about and what you should and how you need to adjust your brain in the midst of all this that's going on. And if you are not thinking about what I'm about to say, then you should be. Number one, if you do not know this already, you should. Jerome Powell, the Fed chairman, is lying to you. Or could we say he's just trying not to he's trying not to panic the market. Anyone with two eyes that goes and does anything knows and sees the effects of inflation and that the prices of things are going up. Anybody with eyes can see that. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to go through and understand that. But in the midst of it all, what should you be doing? Well, obviously the four things on the screen are very important. But let me go through and just kind of give it and make it even more simpler than that. If you are in a position to buy assets, hard assets, I'm talking about if you are in a position to buy real estate, rental, or whether it's your residence, you should be. If you are in a position to be buying higher right now than the gains in the stock market. But that does not mean that the stock market is not still a worthy investment and a worthy place to put your monies, especially if you have a long-term investment perspective like I do. I am a long-term investor in this whole crypto thing and in the stock market and in general. I'm a long-term investor. I talk about this short-term stuff and speculation for the simple fact of, just to keep it a buck with you, that's where the views come from. It's not set. It's the most profit comes from dollar cost averaging, holding solid projects for the long term. You win, but that's not the sexiest thing. But I digress. Being a long-term investor, going into next year, it's going to be some shit. The market is going to drop. The stock market, I anticipate the stock market to drop, especially if they start to raise rates and especially as they start to continue to taper. Wall Street is going to go mad and the stock market is going to drop. And if you don't know, if you're not a long-term investor, you could see that as all hell breaking loose. But if you listen to me at all, and whether we're talking about stocks or crypto, that's not the point right now. The point right now is you need to be buying hard assets if you're in a position to buy hard assets. You need to be accumulating hard assets if you're in a position to accumulate hard assets. Why? because inflation is you ain't seen nothing yet. If you think inflation is high now, wait until we get into January. But whether you believe that or whether you don't believe that, you should be buying hard assets, irregardless. If you're not in a position to buy hard assets, you need to be getting in a position to buy hard assets. Now is the time to really be as financially literate as possible. Now is the time, if you are not in a position to leverage your credit, now is the time to go hard about getting all of that in order so that you can leverage your credit. Why? Because you can leverage your credit and buy hard assets, some real estate. Very, very, very important. And if you are, and if, even if you totally believe everything that the Fed chairman is talking about, which I hope you don't. But if you believe everything that he's talking about, if you go through and you're more financially literate and you make it a point to be in a position to take advantage of all of buying assets, and if you realize you're not in a position to buy assets, get in a position to buy assets, manage your money a lot better, dollar cost average. Buy if you're, from a crypto stance, if you're not in the market at all and you're just coming in brand new, you can't, a long-term perspective, dollar cost average into Bitcoin and Ethereum. You can start there. If you're going on to even if you're going into the stock market side and you haven't been over there, go into the tech. Oh, what is that? Even if you're in the stock market, get into one of these ETFs. Get into the tech. Get into healthcare. I'm sure you didn't understand why. Pharmaceuticals and such. The trend is your friend. But the key here, in the midst of all of that, is you have to make the change in your mind right now that I need to be a holder of hard assets. I need to be investing in some things that are going to be going up. If I don't know about DeFi and stable coins and getting getting a higher interest rate on your money that beats inflation that's currently constantly going up, then then you definitely need to learn about that. If you're not familiar with some of the other protocols where you can actually do DeFi without paying the high Ethereum fees, you need to be out there doing that and figuring that out. Do your own research so you can know what you're investing in and why. All of us are in very different spots as far as our investment journey, our knowledge journey, and all of that. So as we go into the new year, and as we go into this next phase and next stage, inflation is going to continue. Whatever the Fed says, you need to be doing the opposite. And I tell you why. History doesn't repeat, but it damn sure rhymes. Ben Bernanke in 2007 was the guy talking about there was no housing crisis. Ben Bernanke was the guy back in 2007 talking about the housing crisis is contained to only certain areas and it would not be what it turned out to be. 2008 came in, everything went ham, and the same guy that's head of the Fed chairman now is telling us, don't worry about inflation or whatever BS they're feeding us right now. It's temporary and all that other old nonsense. Now is the time for you to be implementing the four things that you see on the screen. Now is the time to be doing your own research into projects that can help to preserve your wealth and your buying power. Now is the time to be doing your own research so that you can figure out that, hey, I'm not in a position to accumulate assets or buy or get to buy assets or accumulate any of this wealth that you're talking about. You need to be doing your own research on what you need to do to get in position to do that. And after you get in that position, dollar cost average into these assets. After you're done and taking advantage of the opportunities, and you are not the one that's panic selling and selling their portfolio to pay the rent because you didn't manage your money right, and now you got to liquidate what you bought just to make sure you don't get put out. It's not sexy. It's overly simple, but it does require discipline. As I cut this one off and as I end this live, I pray that there is something that you got from this. I pray that you take the time to see where you are and adjust accordingly. Because those of us that take the time to do what I'm talking about and to get these assets and get in position to get these assets, we're going to be okay. Everybody else who just kind of ignores it and kind of sticks their head in the sand and keep on and act like nothing's going to happen, they're going to find themselves in what I like to call an oh shit moment. I am too rich to miss. Peace.